So if your score is lower than 388 points, it means there is a low possibility that you will be taken out of the pool. That is why it is very, very good to actually get provincially nominated first, because it makes the process way simpler and you don't have to be counting scores. Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Now today I will be talking all things express entry, how exactly you can become a permanent resident in Canada in the next 6 months. Now if that interests you, definitely keep on watching. So quite frankly, I'm just going to get right to the screen share. And if you're wondering, first of all, something that some persons has asked me that lives outside of Canada is if they are eligible to apply for permanent residency, and the answer is yes. Any program that is available in Canada, once you are eligible for that program, you can apply for it. The only thing is that some of these programs are tailored to only people who are living inside of Canada, so you wouldn't be eligible. For example, if a permanent resident requirement or a program requirement said that you need to finish school in Canada, well, if you're outside of Canada and you have never done school in Canada, then you wouldn't be eligible. But once you're eligible for a program in Canada, you are free to apply, whether you are inside of Canada or you're outside of Canada. So definitely, if that was your question, whether you're inside Canada or outside Canada, you can always watch this video and enjoy. Now I am going into the screen share portion. My computer is right here. You can't really see it. Let's see if I can get it in frame. You can't really see the computer, but the computer is right here. I'm just going to throw this on to protect my eye from the blue light and start recording. And let's go. So what you can see on my screen now is I have express entry eligibility, which is entered into Google. Just go onto Google and enter this express entry. So eligibility for express entry program, you can see this is on canada.ca and you click it. And then there are 3 different type of express entry profiles that are available under express entry. You have Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trade Program, and you have the Canadian Experience class. Now, what you would have to do is to click each one of them and go back in. First of all, I have already spoken about provincial nomination. I'll link that video right here for you. It will be in the cards. In that video, you would be able to get the information about provincial nomination, which will be very, very beneficial for you if you're interested in provincial nomination, because that nomination is going to allow you to get more points and will help you in these programs. Now with points in Canada, that is a whole different thing to itself, and let me just show you. So it is called CRS score. And this is basically what ranks you in the system of express entry. So what you would see, it is called a Comprehensive Ranking System, CRS tool, and you select it and you fill out a bunch of questions. Give yourself 15 to 30 minutes to fill this out. Answer all these questions. Once you answer each question, something else will pop up. So let's say married, and then the next question will pop up and you keep answering each question. And then another question will pop up. So that is for the tool to kind of give you what your points is. And then the next tool that I can also recommend to you is to get the express entry scores that they are currently pulling now with the draws. So they do draws out of express entry. Let me just explain a little bit about that. So with express entry, you first are placed into a pool. When you go into that pool, what happens is that they are going to use their CRS, Comprehensive Ranking System, to pull you out of the pool. Now with this pool, you go here, express entry rounds of invitation, because this invitation is what tells you how everything works. And basically you go on it and see how they have been selecting persons and what scores they've been taking persons, to give you a good idea of what score you need to have as well. So here you can say CRS distribution of candidates in the express entry pool as of March 24, 2024. And this date will be updated over time. And sometimes like every month and things like that, you'll see a difference. So what you can see is that what they do is to select the numbers based off of what ranking you are. So they have highlighted it and show that they have selected 987 persons from the pool of 601 and things like that. And they just kind of show you how many candidates they select based on the scores that are there, to kind of show you where most of the score is coming from. Right here, what you can see is that they have kind of a specific date. So whatever date you decide to look at this, let's say that date is right here, and it kind of shows you what is the score that they are currently taking. So you can see that the lowest score is 388 points. So if your score is lower than 388 points, it means there is a low possibility that you will be taken out of the pool. So you want your score to be at least over 388, because that is currently the amount that they are taking, and they could cut off at 600 points. They can cut off at 500 points, 450 points, and so on. So that's for understanding how the draws work and also how the CRS work. So those are two tools to get a full understanding of where the whole express entry settings is at. So the next thing is to go into the 3 areas. So you go into the first one, Federal Skilled Worker Program. And in there, you will see the minimum requirements for this program, the work experience required, language eligibility, education, selection factors, proof of funds, admissibility, where you can live in Canada, and next steps are all on this page. So I'll definitely link this page for you so that you can get all of this information. Let me just pull up the CRS score as well and just grab the link so that I can share these links whenever I post this video. What you do is to go in here and see what are the minimum requirements to see if you would be eligible. So for express entry, the minimum requirement for work experience, your skill work experience must be in the same type of job, have the same knock as the job you want to use for your immigration application. You have obtained this experience within the last 10 years, and that can be in Canada or abroad. Be paid, so it can be volunteer work. Be at least 1 year of continuous work, and for this example, a full-time job is in Canada is usually at least 30 hours per week. And you can also use equivalent part-time jobs to add up the hours to get this as well. The next thing to look at is the language ability. So with this, you will need to do a language test to get your language score. And when you go here, it's going to show you what scores you will need. And they show minimum level for all will be CLB 7, or in French, NCLC 7. So those are the minimum scores that you will need to get in the federal skilled worker class. And they go into the Canadian experience class, how much is required, and also skilled trade as well, just so you know how much points you will need, and you need to suit these points. Next, you go into education. So with education, you are going to need to get your education assessed, all of them. You will need to assess your highest level of education, and if that education was done in Canada, then you don't need to assess anything, and this will be an expense that you can skip. But if you're located outside of Canada, then you'll need to get the education assessed. And then they go into the selection factors, where they kind of give you a breakdown of some of the things that they consider when accepting a person. For example, they look into your age, your education, your work experience, your job offer, your English or French abilities, and your adaptability in Canada. So with this, it's all a point-based system. And what they would do is to go right here, review how the selection factor points are calculated for federal skilled worker. And then you go down and scroll down, and it kind of shows you, based on what your language numbers are, how much points you would get. So for example, they are saying if you did your English test and you got a level 9 in CLB, then this is the point that you would get across the board. If you got CLB 8, then you would get 5 across the board. 7, you'll get 4 across the board in terms of points. And same thing for English, it is all about points. Same thing for French as well, and it's all just point-based system. They give points again for work experience. So based on if you have 2-year work experience, 3 years work experience, 1 year work experience, that affects how much points you get as well. And then for age, your age group gives you a certain amount of points, and the older you are, the less points you will get. And if you're under 18, you won't get any points at all. The maximum point you can get is between 18 to 35 years old, which is like the peak point of employment. So that's why they choose that time frame. Adaptability, they look at other persons who you live with, and they just look at other things in regards to what experience, what's your life history, and they also give points for these things, how many relatives you have in Canada, things like that will help with your adaptability in Canada. So they look into that as well. For proof of funds, they actually give you the exact number. This number is going to change very soon. So as soon as you can apply for permanent residency, definitely apply before the amounts get applied. All these things gives you points, and they just tell you exactly what you need to do. Like, just follow the website. It tells you exactly what you need and what you need to do, and it kind of show you what you need as proof of funds. If you have a job offer, then these numbers will not apply to you. This is only for people who do not have a job offer, which is most people living outside of Canada. And that's it for this one, federal skilled worker. And then we go back, and then we go to federal skilled trade. And the real change with this is really with the work experience, where now you need 2 years of work experience instead of 1, and it needs to be in the last 5 years. So that's a big difference. But with everything else, it's kind of the exact same thing in regards to language ability, job experience, education, proof of funds. All that remains the same as what I said just earlier. So don't worry about anything else. And then with the Canadian experience class, the work experience is really what makes the difference. Also, the language ability in terms of the amount of points that you get. It's important to try to get a higher point, which is why I'm not so much a fan of this system. But this is just how it is. So try to get as much points as possible. So for the Canadian experience class, you will need 1 year of skilled work experience, and that needs to be within Canada specifically, because a Canadian pathway, persons who are inside of Canada, that is not necessarily you being a Canadian. And the language score is lower in this area, so that's nice. Education, that's just regular whatever last education you do. If your education was in Canada that you did the last education, you don't need to assess it. And that's it really for express entry. Now, something that I want to say to you. With express entry, you can gather points from provincial nomination. This will make this process way smoother, way easier. This is because in regards to the point-based system, when you're thinking about people in Canada versus people outside of Canada, the overall CRS score is 1,200 points in total. The maximum points someone outside of Canada can get is 600 points. The maximum someone inside of Canada can get is 1,200 points, 1,200 points. How that happened is because of provincial nomination, which now provincial nomination is now offered to people outside of Canada, but the people who most get it are people inside of Canada, because these are the people who have done the things that are really required to get provincial nomination. Now, with provincial nomination, it makes your life way easier, and this whole process will be way more smoother. This is because once you get provincial nomination, you get 600 points, which is the maximum number of points that someone outside of Canada can get. And then on top of it, you get points for all the other things that I just mentioned: age, education, work experience. You get points for all those things. That is why it is very, very good to actually get provincially nominated first, because it makes the process way simpler and you don't have to be counting scores. Like, you don't need to care about score once you're in Canada and you get the provincial nomination. And there are so many ways that you can get it. Definitely check out that video next. I am going to leave it here. I'm going to leave it on the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to subscribe. Definitely go watch that provincial nomination and look what you are eligible for. And if you're in another province, then you're going to have to gather the information for that specific province. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.